Welcome to another Adventures with Bill, and on today's video we're going to be making the weights for the child rig. The child rig is basically a Ned rig which is completely weedless, and it's a lot less likely to get hung up in the rocks and things like that because the weight is not in the jig head. You're just using a bare hook like you can see in this picture of one rigged up. The weight is actually inserted into the bottom end of the rubber lure, which can be a TRD or a grub or even artificial crawfish, and then you will use any kind of a hook that is weedless. This example is shown Texas rigged. The advantage over a regular Ned rig, again, is that the weight is at the bottom of the lure, so it doesn't get pulled into the rocks or crevices as you're working it in a rocky area. So it's a lot more resistant to snagging up. Now, you can buy all the components for the child rig, but they can be expensive. Here is the weight made by a popular jig company. You can see it's simply a weight on a wire shaft, and this has a bait keeper molded onto the shaft. I'm going to be showing you how to make your own, much cheaper. These weights from the store are about $1 each. And if you make them the way I do, they're only a couple cents each. Now, what are you going to need to make your own? Well, you're going to need any kind of a lead head jig mold. You can see here that this mold that I've just got, I haven't used it, normally uses a hook, and you will pour the lead to make a regular jig head. For the wire shaft that I will use to insert into the rubber lure, I'm using a regular paper clip, probably medium size, so this says jumbo, but I just take it and straighten it out and clip it with a pair of wire cutters, and this is what you end up with. Actually, they're usually a little longer than this. The bent end is what will go inside the lead, and you have the bend to keep it from pulling out of the lead after you pour the jig. Here you can see the wire hooks that I've made inserted into the mold. Just the 4 smallest sizes there. Getting ready to pour the lead. There's my little lead pot. The lead is melted, and you can see that I've smoked up the jig. You use a candle or a match underneath it to smoke it up black. That just helps the lead release a lot easier after they've been poured. And here you can see I've got the 4 shafts already in place, ready to pour the lead. After it's poured, this is what they look like when they come out. Pretty cool looking. Now, the lead melts into the eye where the eye of the hook would be, so you just take a little pair of side trimmers and you clip that off, trim it off. This is what they look like once you've got them ready to go. And you could use them like this, just bare lead, but I powder coated mine, and I've got a video that shows you how to do it. Here you can see my setup is nothing fancy. It's a heat gun from Harbor Freight, and I use it on the highest setting, and will apply the heat, hold the weight by the shaft with a pair of needle nose pliers. You can see what it looks like there, and then just put it simply over the heat. They say usually takes about 12 seconds to heat it up depending on how heavy the lead is, but mine worked just fine. About 8 seconds, rotating it to heat the lead up evenly. Dip it in the powder coat paint. This is the green pumpkin, the famous, world famous color. It's a beautiful slick finish. And I just dip it in some water to cool it off and drop it off and get ready for the next one. Now I'm going to do one in the beautiful chartreuse, bright chartreuse color. Again, just several seconds of heating up the lead. Very simple process. You'll want to do this either outdoors or with some ventilation because it's actually melting the paint to the hot lure, kind of a plastic paint or whatever, and you'll get little fumes off of that. And then again, dip it in the water, cool it, and they are ready to go. Here I made a holder because although you can use them just heating them up that way to where the powder paint melts on them, they're best if you cure the paint in a little oven for about 15 minutes at 250 degrees. Different temperatures, different times you have to experiment. I found that the green pumpkin takes a lot less time to cure than the chartreuse does. But here I've made a little holder just with a punch awl and a piece of soft pine wood, poke the holes in to hold my weights in place to put them into the oven. Here you can see them all arranged, ready to be fired up. And here is the toaster oven. Simple, nothing fancy. I bought this used on Craigslist for $5. I'm not going to use it for anything else but heating up the lures, and it works perfect. So after they're fired up and cured, now I'm going to show how we install them onto the lures. So I've got a TRD, chartreuse and darker green color, and I'm just putting a little drop of super glue on the end of the lure. Then take the weight itself, chartreuse to match, and basically just poke the wire into the end of the lure, hold the lead head of the weight there just to let it dry, and there you go. Very good, very effective. And then of course the hook would go up in the top end there. And so that is the TRD child rig, ready to go, just needing a hook. For the next one, I'm actually doing a Crawdad Pro Crawl Z. Again, I like the Z-Man products because the rubber, the plastic is just about unbreakable. It stretches really well. And so on the tail of the crawl, that way with the hook at the head, as you're fishing it, it's raised up and the crawls are up in the air. The claws are up in the air. Looks very natural. And so for this, I'm using a larger, little heavier green pumpkin weight that I made for the child rig. Super glue it on. There you go. It's going to stand, because the Z-Man products, both the TRD there and the crawl, they are naturally buoyant. They float. They'll stand up straight like that on the bottom with the hook, a weedless hook at the top. Just about a perfect rig. And so just a cheap, easy way to make them if you have a jig mold, to save you tons of money if you use a lot of those. And so I hope this has helped. I hope you've enjoyed it. If you like these videos, please like and subscribe to them. You can see all of my videos on my website, www.adventureswithbill.org. So until next time, God bless you. Have a great day.